With the Indians trailing the Braves 2-0, the World Series returned to Cleveland last night for the first time in 41 years. And Eddie Murray delivered the game-winning blow for the comeback Kings. Can the Indians even the series tonight? Or will the Braves move to within one win of the title? Up next, Game 4.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Jim Powell. John Schuerholz is with me. This is The Architect, episode 4 today. And it's a game that I feel is the key moment in the 1995 World Series that we're chronicling right here with 6 episodes for 6 games. John, Game 4, what were your thoughts going in? And looking back on it, do you agree that that was probably the key game of the series?
My thoughts going into that game, I remember it well, was that I thought the Indians would be fired up, having won that game the night before, or 2 nights ago, and ready to do what they do to teams that they played in their ballpark as the home team. And that was just to annihilate them, mostly. And it was a little disconcerting and concerning to me because they're good. They were a good team. They were put together well. It's a solid team, and we knew we were going to have a tough go, and we had to do everything as well as we could from the pitching standpoint, scoring runs, defense especially, and see if we can't hold on to sneak a game out.
Well, knowing that Steve Avery hadn't had a phenomenal season and that Mark Wohlers had thrown a lot of pitches the day before in Game 3, I bet a lot of people felt like the Indians, like you, were heavy favorites in this game. But that's not the way the game turned out. The Braves behind Avery, able to win this contest. Let's talk about Steve Avery for a moment first. Obviously, he's one of the more popular Braves to ever don the tomahawk. Was it a difficult decision? How much did you guys talk about how you would use Avery in the postseason and in the World Series, and in this series in particular? And why did you slot him here?
Well, again, if you go back to when Smoltz didn't go long into the game that he pitched, and you can't just throw guys out there. You have to have some measurement of what impact it will have, at least if not long-term, intermediate term, what it will have on this game. So Abe was the guy we had faith in. He's pitched good games for us. He was up and down. He wasn't always consistent, but he was a competitor. He looks like a choir boy. I mean, he's got that kind of demeanor, and he acts that way. He's just a delightful young man. And everybody loves him, but he's a tough guy. You put that uniform on him, and he goes out on that mound. His toughness rivals that of Smoltz. It rivals that of Clavin. It rivals that of all of our Maddox. I mean, that's how he is. He's a tough competitor, and he showed it that night.
Ooh, strike 3. Boy, Avery doing just a masterful job.
Well, so far you can't second guess Bobby Cox going with this young man. No, magnificent.
When did you decide, you and Bobby, that Avery would start Game 4? Was that always the plan?
It pretty much was. But again, with Smoltz going short, and Bobby's confidence in Abe's and Leo's confidence in Abe's and our coaching staff all had a chance to opine. He was the guy that we all had confidence that he could go out there and give us some good innings. Maybe it may not be a 5 innings or 6. But he was able to do that, and he really stood up for us and got the job done and saved us in that game.
That's drilled to right field and out of here.
Split finger fastball, and it's a rocket to right.
Ryan Klesko connected for a big home run to put the Braves out in front first in that game, about halfway through. It was a very good pitching duel between Avery and Hill. Klesko is starting to emerge now. He's got home runs in back-to-back games 3 and 4. I want to ask you what you thought of Ryan Klesko as a player and what you thought of where he was in 1995 for you.
From the time I joined the Braves and I saw Ryan Klesko come to the big leagues, I loved Ryan Klesko as a player, as a competitor, as a winner, as a guy who believed he could take on big moments and succeed in them. And he did. And thank goodness he did in this World Series. And Rhino was a powerful guy, and he really helped us in big moments, as he demonstrated in this series and in this game. He did it a number of times and throughout his career. And he's still a big part of our organization, as you know, and we're delighted to have all of these guys continue to migrate back and be a part of the Braves and keep that spirit that they started and they created growing through our organization. And guys like Rhino are part of that.
And that's grounded down to Jones. To Lemke, one. Turns it over to first. Scooped out, double play.
Well, the Indians tried to come right back in the bottom of the sixth inning. They were trying to set things up for Albert Bell in the heart of that order. And accordingly, Omar Vizquel gets on base by a walk from Steve Avery. Then Carlos Baerga hits a ground ball to the third baseman, Chipper Jones, moving to his left. He fields it. Lemke's coming to the bag. Vizquel runs really well. Lemmer knows very well that he's going to try and take him out. He's going to do whatever he can to break up this double play. So Lemke comes in. Vizquel assumes with the second baseman coming toward the third baseman to receive the throw, he's going to cross over the bag and then throw to first. He instead of doing that, Lemmer put his foot on the bag and then pushed back a step toward right field, got out of the baseline that way. Vizquel had already committed himself to the inside lane on the mound side of second, and he went flopping over second base, and the Braves got the double play. And then that looked even bigger because about 30 seconds later, Albert Bell hit a rocket out of Jacobs Field.
Look at Lemke, very adeptly stepping back and making the play. Nicely done.
That's really, really good thinking and anticipation and a gamer, a winner. And that's what Mark Lemke is. He's sort of understated. If you look at him, he's no bigger than you or I, a little bit, but not much. And he wears the uniform well, and he plays the game with grit and grind, and that's what he does, and that's what he did, and that's what he did in this moment. And he made the exact right decision and executed the play perfectly.
You know, it's one of the reasons I love baseball so much, John, is little nuanced items like that 99% of fans didn't even notice. But in the end, when you look back over the course of the game, it was huge, because after the Albert Bell home run, then Avery walks a runner and then walks him to second, Eddie Murray, and then they intentionally walk Manny Ramirez. And then I'm thinking Avery's probably going to come out. They've got the bullpen busy, and he's already been struggling for, it's almost like a second rally he's trying to defuse here. And they've got two on in a tight game. And yet Bobby Cox thought, Avery's the right man for the job.
1-2 strikes the count. And he got him down and in to end the inning.
That scenario right there is a testimony to two people. Steve Avery for his guts and his grind and willingness to stay out there and probably ask Bobby to keep him out there, and Bobby's belief in Steve Avery because he knew the man. He knew his character. He knew his toughness. And he probably said, there's nobody I'd rather have out there now on that mound to get this next out for us, which is a key out, than Steve Avery, because I have confidence that he'll get the job done. And he did.
That's hit in the air to right center field, and racing over is Ramirez, and he can't make the play. Grissom around third, being waved in, and scores to give Atlanta the lead on a double by Polonia. And that's grounded into center field for a base hit. Polonia comes in to score, and so does Jones to make it 4-1. And that's hit down the left field line, and that will drive in another run as Bell will track it down in the corner. McGriff comes in to score. Lopez has a double, and that makes the score 5-1.
And then we go to the ninth inning of this very pivotal game. And Mark Wohlers had thrown about 40 pitches the day before in trying to get the Braves a victory in that game. And so he obviously volunteered to go back out again for the ninth inning, leading 5-1. But he gave up a home run and a double right away. And Bobby, with a quick hook, brought him out of the game and brought in Pedro Borbon. Pedro Borbon was in the big leagues for a lot of years. He had 6 major league saves in his entire life. And here he is in a save situation now, 5-2 in the ninth, coming out of the bullpen, and he's going to face Tomey, Alomar, and Lofton.
Borbon has pitched one time in postseason, October 6th. So he hasn't pitched in 2 weeks, and he faced 4 batters that night.
I think he's got a lot of guts to make this move.
What were your thoughts? What were you thinking at that time?
I thought we all have to send our prayer cards up, because Pedro hadn't had moments like this, didn't have opportunities like this at the end of a ball game, getting a big out that may win you a game in regular season even. But for this game in the World Series, where we win a big game to take the lead, and now they're coming back on us. Again, it's a testimony to Bobby and his belief in his players, and he lived by that. He just didn't talk about it or demonstrate it. He lived by that, demonstrating to his players that he believed in them, he trusted them, and I think you're going to get us the outs we need. Go get him, big guy.
Cold strike 3. And that's lined to right field, and backing up and making the catch is Justice. The Braves are 1 win away from the world title.
Game 4 was a beauty.
It was a beauty. It was the beauty of the entire season for me.
The Braves now take a commanding 3-1 lead into Game 5. We are through with Episode 4, Game 4, and we'll get to Episode 5, Game 5. Braves had a chance to win the World Series right there, and we'll talk about that in the next episode. My thanks to John Schuerholz. I'm Jim Powell. We'll see you next time on The Architect.